Hey everyone, I thought I'd try out a new style of video on this channel. I've been doing kind of like behind the scenes, and this one's a bit more of a practical thing, and I think that will be more valuable. Even though I'm enjoying the other flow of the videos, this is way more for you in terms of the topic and what I'm talking about. So I thought I would call this video the 4 fundamental pillars of success for e-commerce in 2025. Now, I'm absolutely not an expert, really. I know so many people that are way more advanced in this than I am, but I've been doing it a couple of years now, and I have learned a hell of a lot through that process. And just for context, I was someone who had a background in sales. I did very well in sales. That was almost like that was my career. And then I decided I wanted like an online business to be able to live remotely, operate, a system rather than me being in meetings all day long. And I kind of forced myself into e-commerce, and honestly, it was way harder than I thought. So that's something that I really want to put out there in terms of the technical requirements and skills that you need to function an e-commerce business. If you don't have a background in marketing or copywriting or design or anything, you are dramatically further behind in a starting point than a lot of other people who've obviously had that background. So it's not to say you can't learn it. I'm living proof of that. And I think anything's possible, but I just want to bring some kind of reality to the situation, because I think a lot of people just think, oh yeah, you sell online and that's easy. It's become way harder, way more competitive. The cost involved to do it is growing. It's becoming more, less, more expensive to acquire customers online, and that's natural because everything's becoming more popularized. So I just wanted to say that, and therefore this video is very much for startup, bootstrap entrepreneurs, not people who are necessarily looking to raise money for equity from the get-go. And that's a very different play. You've got resource to bring in experts from day one. And so this advice would still apply partially in terms of getting started and what to focus on in terms of those fundamentals of e-commerce. But just want to make that point. This is probably for people who are I want to start something on my own. What things do I need to consider? Basically, where do I go from here? What should I focus on? So gonna record my screen, and essentially I'm just gonna run through the little Miro board that I put together with my version of what I think would be the most important things to focus on. So first of all, I guess is product, right? If you've got a crap product, you can't really outmarket a crap product. So that's obviously first and foremost. So make sure what you're selling is really solving a problem. That's such a fundamental pillar. Without that, you're just going to struggle. Really, you're going to be uphill. So solving a real, genuine human problem is really critical. And then on the screen, I've kind of labeled the first fundamental or pillar as supply chain and gross margin. So let's pretend you've got your product. It solves the problem that you're ultimately solving for your customers. I put here, there are a couple of things to really think about. Number one is AOV, which is average order value. And my business, some businesses, you can't really trick the AOV too much, because if you're a consumable product, we're coffee, let's say you sell toilet roll or I don't know, whatever is a consumable, you can't really hammer the AOV more than the consumer is willing to kind of buy in terms of volume. So that's a consideration. You can obviously do bundles and stuff to boost it, but there are some kind of fundamental brackets around AOV based on your product category. I've put here £50 to £60 all the way up to £100. If I was starting again with a different business, I would probably intentionally find a product that is geared around the £80 to £100 mark in AOV, because just through pure mathematics and unit economics, that would give you an edge on anyone that's doing less. So that's something I've learned. And then gross margin, can't stress to you how important this is in terms of making sure that you're as profitable as possible, because what happens is, let's say you take that 78% margin that you ideally should be making, then there's a lot of cost that needs to come out of that breakdown. So team, obviously your cost of goods sold, is obviously a part of that. I think you've got your marketing costs, which are essentially just rising. Year on year, things like Meta is just getting more expensive, CPMs are rising. And so it's just fundamental, I think, nowadays to have like really strong backbone of gross margin. Otherwise you're just going to be kind of pushing uphill, and you're never, e-commerce is a high volume. If you're doing a low AOV product like a consumable, it's a high volume order game, which means you have to have, and I've put here on the screen, volume plus profitability, because I feel like that's the key. You obviously need high volume of orders and customers, and to be as profitable as you can, which is like any business, but I think in e-com, given that, those constraints around, or like the economics behind it, it's even more fundamental. So that's kind of point number one: supply chain, gross margin, product. Number two, I'll keep this short because I think it's obvious for most people nowadays. I wouldn't start with Meta, as a bootstrapped entrepreneur. Really expensive. At the beginning, you're effectively trying to identify or figure out, do you have product market fit? Which in other words is, does the customer really care enough about your product, and are they willing to pay for it, and are they willing to come back and buy again? Which is also another fundamental of like, is your e-commerce operation working or not? Your returning customer rate is like probably one of the best metrics to understand whether people really love what you're doing. We have a pretty healthy returning customer rate. I'm sure we can improve it, but we're at like 67, 68% over like a 90-day period, which I think is pretty healthy. Shows that customers really value the product and come back for it. I'm sure there's people that have way stronger product market fit or better insights on that. I've put here Google Ads, SEO, influencers, or other. I'm very experienced with SEO. That's how we built the business. Massive arbitrage if you can get it working, because the cost per acquisition on that channel is just like ridiculous. I think we pay something like £2.50, £3 per customer, which also decreases over time in our favor, that CAC, because the more we grow it, the more profitable it becomes, the bigger asset it becomes. So that's SEO. But here's the caveat. So there are like short-term channels in terms of like where you can make fast traction, and then there are long-term plays. SEO is absolutely a long-term play. Like, you have to build your domain authority, your expertise, you have to build out content and trust with Google. I have no idea what the future of SEO looks like. So that's also a risk factor in 2025 and beyond. Like, is that a sustainable channel for the future given AI and how LLMs are affecting it? We had a dip at one point, we managed to regain again, but that's just a consideration. But it's a great channel. You can learn it yourself, get on YouTube, figure it out, produce content for the user, build, sales and email data through that. That's a really viable startup move, I would say. But just be prepared that like for at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months, probably, if you're inexperienced, like, you probably won't be seeing direct results. So that's another factor. Meta, I put no on that. I just think it's really high cost if you don't have much budget to get it working in 2025. Again, especially if you're literally using it to test and try and find product market fit. If you don't have any experience behind you, it's gonna kill you. That's my experience of it. 5 years ago, it might have been a different story, but Google Ads, I think, can be a really good one, providing that the product that you have in your category, has some kind of, I guess, key traffic behind it that has like a good CPC value, which means the cost per click value. The customers that are coming in through that channel and that product keyword, people buy with intent behind that keyword. Then I think that's a fairly low cost thing to start testing, because at least with Google Ads, people coming into your site, are looking for your solution, i.e. your product. So I think that's a better one to kick off with. And then I'm not very experienced with this, I'll be honest, but influencers or other, organic social, if you can do short form videos, it's probably your best bet if you're an entrepreneur. Bootstrap nowadays, if you know how to set that up and have the time to do so, because that's kind of really free marketing. Influencers can be great, I think, but I think most of them nowadays charge, from what I understand. And then secondly, I think, you can, people say, oh yeah, it's free, but you're going to have to gift them product, and also there's a shipping fee and the product cost attached to that. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but you could also surprisingly spend 20 quid plus, more on that for every person that you ship to. And therefore that becomes your £20 CAC, right? So in the early days, you can do that, but you can also spend a lot if you're not very controlled with that. So that's the second pillar. And I guess to summarize that's your channels of operation. I would just say find the underpriced attention. So anywhere that your competitors are not operating so strongly on is your advantage. Number 3, product market fit. This is really, really crucial, because if you don't have it, everything else is just going to break or not work. And that's the fundamental. And that's why I put it as a pillar for a startup entrepreneur looking at ecom, because it's just really vital. It basically means, does the market, i.e. your customers, even want your product in the first place, and your service, because you are ultimately delivering a service alongside a product, which is shipping and the rest. So there's 2 parts of this. You've got positioning in the market versus your competition or competitors in the market. And that's really about how do you carve out a unique edge or angle in the marketplace that is going to even mean that customers care enough to buy from you rather than your competitors. If you're just blending in with the same messaging than your competitors, then you're probably also just not going to be very appealing to your end customer. So that's really important, and you can go away and do a load of research on that. I had to kind of learn that the hard way because I had no understanding on this before. And actually, when I launched my business in the beginning, that was one of the core issues I had. Our positioning wasn't strong enough. So I had to kind of adapt and learn that and figure that out. So that's number 1. Number 2, learn fast. What I mean by that is collect data and information from your customers as you can. And that can be objective data, that can be data that you pick up through just conversations with your customers on email, or get them on the phone, or have a call with them, or get them to reply, or look at your reviews and gather information from the reviews to bring into your website copy, your marketing efforts. Survey your customers, talk to them, and then basically get in the habit of reusing the feedback they give you towards iterating what you're offering in terms of your messaging. That also directly correlates to product market fit, because that means you're kind of speaking the same language as your customers and giving them what they want. So that's the 3rd pillar. I think is really important at the beginning. And then the final pillar is team. Now, obviously, this is very much a slight later stage. Once you've got things going, you've got a bit of a flywheel going, you're seeing some progress, you're seeing sales come in, you've got that traction. There's a lot of moving parts in e-commerce, and I think the faster you can sub certain things out in your business that don't take energy from you as the creator or the marketing guy, or it really depends on your skill set as well. For me, I'll be honest, finance is something I don't really enjoy. I have some good commercial understanding. I do get it. I get the fundamentals and I understand, business, but it's not an area that I enjoy. So for me, bringing in a CFO was really essential, just in a part-time fractional capacity. You can do that and hire people it's not too expensive. So once you get to a certain tipping point, 10, 15K a month, maybe something like that is worth investing in, if that's taking a lot of your attention away. My CFO does all payroll, manages all of our team's payments, etc. So it's about finding your skills, like where are you best. If you're skill deficient in copywriting, you may need to bring in a freelancer to help you with that. And also you can just learn all this stuff now online. Like, it's going to take you a bit longer, so it's good to have the expectation like, okay, maybe this is going to take me a year to figure out the core skills required for e-commerce, but go and learn them, figure it out, and that's it. So I just say, yeah, learn to outsource. Basically, I think that's really helpful. But once you can get that sorted, I think you can be off. And I think, if you can get to like 10, 20K a month through this kind of process and make sure the fundamentals are in place, you've got a lot of potential then to scale up what's already working, even bring in investment at a later stage because you've bootstrapped it and you've kind of justified that you've got a business that's worth investing in. So yeah, that's my 4 fundamental takeaways for success in e-commerce 2025. I hope it helps. Let me know in the comments below if I've missed anything crucial, probably have, or you just want to add some extra points from your experience if you've got any. But yeah, love to hear from you. Take care, guys.